Boom. I think we are live after 1 week away. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, one member of the Xbox 2 podcast. And with me, as always, the one and only Jez Corden, the Minecraft dungeon. I was trying to think of a good adjective to describe you. The best Minecraft dungeon player you'll ever see. Editor of Windows Central. What's going on, buddy?
Oh man, it's been a very tiring week, but I had a nap specifically for this podcast so I wouldn't be tired. Otherwise, I'd be slurring my speech and falling asleep on the mic right now. It's been that kind of week, man. But how have you been? How have you been doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We got a lot of news to talk about. Today was pretty exciting. It seems that the video game industry is starting to get to the point where we're going to reveal some games and stuff. Which just reminded me, I'm looking at my screen now, and I forgot to actually show off the gameplay of the game I captured footage for. But yeah, man, there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, and I just want to apologize for not doing the show last week. I was not feeling good. You couldn't get a hold of me. I had a pretty horrible headache, so I just kind of slept the whole day last Friday. And I apologize. I know we try to do the show every single week, and I just was not in a frame of mind and not I wouldn't have been energetic enough. I wouldn't have given my all because of I just couldn't think properly. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
We forgive you.
It's okay. But we're back. Hopefully everybody is, doing well. We appreciate everyone being here. UK Daz, Dr. Vortex, Salty, Emperor Zurge, Ryan, Gunstar. By the way, gotta give a shout out to UK Daz. He's slowly recovering from a medical problem, so I hope everything I hope you're doing good, Daz. I hope you're getting strong, getting back into it, man. I saw that when you posted that stuff, and that really worried me, dude. I was worried. But I'm glad you're doing better. Obi-Wan, what's going on? It's a giraffe. Hey, how's everybody doing? JD Gamer, he says, let's get this out of the way. Is Sony buying Sega? Well, we'll talk about the Sega thing. Jez, did you see the Sega news? That whole Sega stuff?
I haven't seen anything Sega related. I've got some DMs, man. I'll be honest with you, man. I'm totally out of the loop. This week's for me I'm totally out of the loop. This week for me has been all about Minecraft Dungeons, covering every aspect of the game, and we had a whole team covering it, and I haven't been looking at any news, so you're gonna have to inform me this week, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about it eventually, but just to give a hint of the Sega stuff, some writer from Famitsu's teasing a huge world exclusive article for next week that's a revolution, and that's on par with the Wired reveal of the PlayStation 5 of last year. And it's got the rumor mills churning. Could it be Xbox buying Sega? Could it be Sony buying Sega?
Could it be Sega making a console again based on the profits from the Sonic movie?
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff, but
interesting.
Yeah, so while we're starting up the show, we're going to be talking about the games we played. Could you do us a favor? Make sure you hit the like button and hit that little share button too, because YouTube does a horrible job notifying people, when the podcast is actually live. Me and Jez would both really appreciate that. We're going to talk, obviously, about Minecraft Dungeons because Jez is, as I mentioned, the greatest Minecraft Dungeons player in the world.
I am. I wouldn't be surprised if I actually was right now.
Yeah.
But only because I think I've played it more than anyone else in the world right now.
So, before we talk about Minecraft Dungeons, because I played it as well, do you want to talk about any other game that you played before we talk about Minecraft Dungeons?
I haven't played anything.
You haven't played anything? Oh, weren't you on a vacation or something like that?
Oh man, I can't even remember. Dude, time has just become an abstract concept to me. I don't even know what's going on anymore. But I pretty much played nothing else. We got the Minecraft Dungeon codes in last week, and then I was like, oh my god, there's quite a lot to this. We need to have a team covering it. And then it was just a huge document with all the stuff we wanted to cover. and cataloging every scrap of information, data mining the files for all the information as well. It's been crazy. So if I have played anything else, I can't really remember it. I was playing Smite a little bit, but I think maybe we talked about that already.
I mean, you did talk about Smite, and you were loving Smite for a long time there. You thought it was really really fun, and I have put about 100 hours into Smite years ago. I think the game's pretty cool.
I've been playing Smite a bit. I quite like it. But honestly, other than that, it's just been all Minecraft Dungeons, man.
Yeah,
I haven't touched anything else.
We got a question from Johnny Pattons. He says, "Not real happy that the Xbox July event is going to give PS5 a whole month of attention and hype. Does Microsoft attempt to undercut it with a surprise?" Well, I mean, there's supposed to be a June event. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. You know, I will say, because I was talking with my friends last night about this, Jazz. A couple of my friends are happy that Xbox technically is going last, because normally Xbox goes first. Sunday comes around.
Gives them a chance to change tack, doesn't it?
Yeah,
usually they don't have a chance.
And you know, like, we'll talk about the PlayStation event and what we expect to see there and all that stuff, but like, Sony obviously has taken the feedback of not only from their own Mark Cerny presentation that people hated, but also what people really didn't like about Inside Xbox to try to build a better show based on the feedback that everybody gave after watching the no gameplay of Series X May, and you know what I mean? So like, and considering it's not like a day later or 2 days later, you can actually kind of change maybe a few things. Maybe you can't make a demo if you weren't planning on it, but you can definitely potentially move some things around or market a little bit different. So, and I already see like the jabs are already going in. Xbox yesterday talking about no boost clocks and no down clocking, direct shots at the PlayStation 5.
I saw that.
Then, Sony today being like, it's time to get, PlayStation users excited for games only on PlayStation 5, which is a direct shot at Xbox because their first party doesn't have, it's like, man, the gloves are off. These two companies are, Aaron Greenberg just tweeted something, and it's just like, yo, we are here. Like, the console war between, in quotes, the two companies is like, it's going off. Sony did the 2 state of plays. They talked about their 2 games they got left, and it's like, all right, now we're talking about the PS5 and we're coming out swinging. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun, and I can't wait to see how it all goes down. Right?
Yep, it's gonna be an interesting year.
Oh yeah. Regulator in the chat says, "Did you see Sony CEO's Jim Ryan's response on PlayStation backwards compatibility? Great show, guys. Thanks." I don't think I saw his response on the PlayStation's back compat. Maybe somebody else in the chat will let us know. And DJ Hero says, "Series X, the only X in my life that matters." Yes, mine too. If only every X was as good as Xbox Series X. But so back to the games. So you didn't play anything else besides Minecraft Dungeons. Okay, so I'll talk about what I played, right? Because I also played Minecraft Dungeons, but I played a couple other games. Obviously, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Warzone, Jazz. I know. Yeah, but it is getting to the point, though. I will say that it's starting to wear thin for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like, I'm approaching about.
How many hours you got in that now? 20,000 hours.
About 200 hours, give or take. 20 for whatever long it took me to beat the campaign twice. And the last few times we played, it just hasn't been fun, and that's kind of how I eventually got off PUBG and Apex Legends. Like, I played Apex Legends for 100 hours, and we got off PUBG because it just wasn't fun anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, we kind of felt like that the last couple times we got on Call of Duty Warzone. And I'm hoping, because they announced that Season 4 starts on June 3rd, I believe, I'm hoping they change things up. I'm hoping they do a Fortnite-like event and change the map somehow to make it a little bit more fresh or something. Because if nothing changes and they get back on that game and it's just not fun, I'm probably going to stop playing Call of Duty Warzone, which is unfortunate because I think it's a fantastic game.
You got fairly lot out of it, isn't it? Just free to play as well.
I haven't spent any money. It's free to play. You know, it's got the whole battle pass and all the cosmetic stuffs, but I don't care about that. So basically, it's a free game that I've spent no money on. I've gotten close to 200 hours worth out of it. So, um, yeah, but it's just like I was talking to my buddy Gopher, and he kind of feels the same way. And he plays as much as me. They did add duos recently, which is something we've been asking for. So maybe that will be a little fun there. But yeah, so hopefully the June 3rd thing changes the map a little bit. Obviously,
Apex Legends have duos.
Apex Legends does not have duos, or sometimes when it has duos, they it's like
an
it's
event.
like a limited time event. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
It's all, but I don't.
That's weird.
I think they've done Yeah, it's weird. Like Apex Legends is basically built around like 3 players, but the other game I played quite a bit of. I think I have around maybe 20 hours into, and it's obviously the game that I'm showcasing during the stream on the screen is Deep Rock Galactic.
Oh snap! Yeah, I love Deep Rock Galactic, but I haven't got anyone to play with, and it's kind of lame with randoms, I think. But I really do like it. What do you think of it?
Dude, it's great. Deep Rock Galactic is fantastic. It's a lot of fun. I liked it back when I played it in 2018 in the game preview, and it recently came out of game preview 1.0 launch, and it's a lot of fun, man. I've been playing it in 4-player co-op with my crew, my Warzone crew, and it's addicting. The whole mining aspect, like all the dungeons or all the levels are procedurally generated, and there's usually like an objective, like, oh, you need to mine this much morkite, which is a mineral, or you need to go collect some eggs, and then while you're doing that stuff in these, I'm gonna like really beautiful looking caves, the way the lighting is with your flares, because it's all dark.
Yeah,
each level doesn't. Each level, even though it's procedurally generated, like they all feel unique. And then you have the little like spider things that attack you. So you got the combat, and sometimes they come in waves. And each dwarf you play as is a little bit different than the other. Like I was playing as the gunner, so I had the machine gun. Who'd you play as?
I always play as the drill guy with the big drills because I hate digging. So I was like, well, I'll play the guy with the drills who can just basically swim through the rocks because the drills are so powerful. So I always play the drill dude, and I like the class based structure in that game. It like adds some interest to it, but it's kind of lame when everyone's the same class though.
Well, yeah, because like you're the gunner, and my ability was like I had the big chain gun, so I would stand firm at the front. I could throw down a shield generator, but the big thing was like you had a zip line, so you can get across the big gaps and areas. There's like a scout. He could run really fast. He has a flare gun which lights up the areas, and he can grapple to different spots. The engineer can build turrets, and he can actually build things on the wall for you to stand on. And Jez's driller guy just drills through dirt really fast.
And has a flamethrower.
And he has a flamethrower. But it's a lot of fun. I surprisingly, we kept on playing it. I don't know how much more I'll keep on playing it. You know what I'm saying? 20 hours in, I think I'm at the point where like I can unlock some of the secondary weapons and stuff. And I did see that they have like raids, like in the game. Now? Jesus. Yeah, they have like I forget what they're called, but the game's pretty cool. I recommend it. I think it's like $30. If you got a crew, definitely pick up this co-op game because it's an absolute blast. But enough of that. Minecraft Dungeons time, Jez. Here you go. So,
indeed,
did you know that if you go to Metacritic, you're the highest review for Minecraft Dungeons?
I did. And I'm not surprised about that, so, because there was something weird about the review program for this game, and unfortunately, I had a very different perspective on it than a lot of other reviewers. So, like, the review program for this game was only 2 days long, and I think, like, given its length and the amount of lead time people had, a lot of them just got to the last boss and thought, okay, that's it. That's the whole game. And they thought, well, I've got a day to review it now, so I'm just get the review out and have done with it. And then you had like lots of YouTubers saying the game only has 9 levels because they'd rushed through it, and all that sort of stuff. However, on Windows Central, because it's a it's a Microsoft game and it's our job to cover Microsoft games, we went a little bit deeper on it because the beta actually just let you carry on leveling, even though there was only like 3 or 4 levels available in the beta. We ended up like with characters that were like level 30 or higher because we were grinding it for guides, right? And grinding it for information. But those beta characters, for whatever reason, carried over to our review copies. So I was like, oh, well, in that case, I'm going to skip the levels I've already done and go straight into the end game. So when I finished my review, I was a lot further in than I think a lot of reviewers were. And I was already at like adventure and then apocalypse difficulty, where the game gets like way more interesting. You start getting weapons that have 3 enchantment slots. You start getting like some of the more powerful uniques. You start getting like some of the more powerful spells, like the Torment Quiver, which is only available in apocalypse difficulty. So like I had a kind of different perspective on it than a lot of other reviewers did. And we ended up enjoying it more than some of the other reviewers, I guess, because of that. But it is what it is,
That is
like sure. I had like loads of fanboys who were like, "Oh, look, Windows Central giving it another high rating again." But like the vast majority of our reviews of Xbox games are completely in line and average with the general consensus, right?
I saw people bring up your Sea of Thieves tweet from 2018 on this one.
Oh my god. Well, that's just ridiculous. I had someone on YouTube saying like, "How much did Mojang pay you for this review?" A review which had like 8,000 views on YouTube. Yeah, I'm sure they paid loads for this review.
Yeah, I'm sure they
did. But, I can't fake enjoying a game, And like, if you want to say how many hours I put into it now, I'm at like 50 hours now. And we've written all the guides, and I don't have to keep playing it, And I'm still really enjoying it. I just like action RPGs. I like Minecraft. I like Minecraft Dungeons. It's really that simple. But
right.
Oh well, I think my review was the best one of the lot because I was the only one that actually did get to the end game. So yeah, my review was the best one. I'm sorry, Skill Up and all the rest of them.
Skill Up did another review. He did a second one, by the way.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
What did he say in that one?
He unlisted his first one. You'd have to go and watch it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He unlisted his first one. He says he still doesn't like the game, but well, you have to go watch it. But either way,
it's funny though, because like a lot of the things, because I like Skill Up's content a lot, but a lot of the things he complained about was sort of like they're fixed by gear, and it's kind of like that's how action RPGs work. It's like he was saying that the dodge roll is slow, but there's an item. If you want to have a fast dodge roll, there's an item for that. Even in my review, I was complaining about not getting enough souls for the magic mechanic. But if you want more souls, there's an item for that. And it's just how these games work. They're all, based around the uniques you get, the rare items that drop that completely change the playstyle and the flow of the combat and stuff like that. And I think because I was coming in from like 700 hours with Monster Hunter, which is a very gear-based progression system as well, it kind of clicked with me a bit more than maybe it did some people who were just sort of coming in with maybe casual Diablo experience. But I love it. And yeah, it's bare bones, but it's such a strong starting point for a game that could easily grow. Like Path of Exile is a similar action RPG, and that's coming up to 10 years old now. And it's such a bigger, more complicated game than it was when it launched. So I'm pretty excited about the future of it, to be honest.
Yeah, and gotta give a shout out to Ralph Wiggum, who says, "Just dropping by to say you guys make my week. Can't wait to hear after work." Well, that's awesome. Nice. The fact that we make somebody's week, Jez, makes me pretty happy. And we got one here from Faisal007. He says, "Hello, guys. Great show again. I am predicting that Sony's event will be a similar event to Inside Xbox, with some announcements of known sequels, and it will be a huge disappointment. Your thoughts?" We are going to be going in depth on the talk about that, yeah. PS5 event in a little bit. But yeah, so I beat Minecraft Dungeons last night. I would say maybe it took us 5 hours. I played in 4-player co-op with my crew. Shout out to Gopher, Magic, and Sam. We also, you know how like on the each difficulty you can modify the like how difficult it is within the difficulty, like the
Hmm.
modifiers. So we basically played it on the hardest difficulty within the default setting. So it probably took us a little bit more time. I think we probably played it for 6 hours, and we searched every nook and cranny to try to find everything. And I thought the game was fun, but I don't really disagree with the reviews so much. So, like I said, after finishing it, after my first playthrough, that I probably would give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Like, it just does enough, and it's like
That's fine.
it's a fun game, but like I don't think it's like a great game by any stretch of the imagination. Now granted, I haven't played on the next difficulty setting where apparently it gets a little bit harder, and there's like cooler stuff or more difficult enemies. Um, but I thought it was I thought it was fine. I
I do think like they missed an opportunity here to give it a much bigger scope, like with more levels and stuff like that, and more investment. Because like even in the early previews I did last year, they were like, "Oh, we're a small team with 20 people." Blah 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 blah. It's like, why do I keep hearing from Microsoft that they're only putting small teams on things? Like, why don't you put big teams on things? Why don't you like add more employees and make more levels? Like, if Minecraft Dungeons launched with like twice the levels, I think like some of the complaints would have gone away. It doesn't bother me so much because, as I say, it's more about the loot. And if you like that gameplay loop of, you know, grinding and getting armor and stuff like that, and, you know, getting the best gear, then it's not so bad. And again, as someone who plays Monster Hunter, I'm very familiar with that gameplay loop of just sort of killing the same monsters over and over and over and over to farm their body parts for loot and stuff. Because that's how it works in Monster Hunter, right? It's all like gear based, grinding the monsters in the same familiar areas and stuff like that. But again, that's like a photorealistic game, and it has a, you know, not a deep story, but it has a story, and it has way more features and, you know, management stuff and all this extra stuff that Minecraft Dungeons doesn't have. So it's not like a completely fair comparison at all. I'm not suggesting that, but I do think they maybe leaned too much into the idea that people would want to grind the same levels over and over again.
yeah,
Not
that's the
many
thing.
people like that gameplay loop,
It's like
and
if you want to continue to get stuff out of it, you basically have to replay the campaign levels again.
yeah,
Which I'm not like I like Diablo, but I'm not one like usually for me Diablo or even any of these other kind of games like I play through once and that's it. Whereas like I know Diablo has rifts and different things that you can kind of do that aren't the campaign levels. And it's just a curious decision to me that was like, okay, we're done with the default difficulty. Now we're going to do it again. Play through the same levels, but just with different enemies. Oh, and then do it again.
well, that's the other thing that was unclear, and another thing that kind of bugs me about the game is that some levels are randomly generated, but others aren't. It's like there is a level in the game called the creepy crypt, right, which is a secret level. That level is almost completely randomly generated.
It's
Every
huge.
time you go in there,
That
yeah,
level's
it's huge.
Yeah.
It is huge. And every time you go in there, the layout will be different. And like, but it's the only level that really does that. Like all the other levels, maybe they've got it something slightly random off the main path of the level. And like, if you go there, you might find something different and unique and stuff like that. But it's only the creepy crypt which matches Diablo's rift system in terms of its randomness. Like, if you go into a Diablo rift, it's completely randomly generated from a set of like tiles, like the tile system, where like it'll have different set tiles, and then the system will match them all together, and you'll get like a unique dungeon for that rift. And then you go through the rift and you fight a boss, and then you get like a key for a greater rift, which is even more complicated and more challenging, and it has even better rewards. And that is the end game of Diablo. And then there's leaderboards for people doing it really fast. And there's even esports and live streams about who can do these rifts the fastest and stuff like that, you know. And but Minecraft Dungeons doesn't really have anything like that, and I think it really did need to lean on its procedural generation, because that's what Minecraft is known for. It's known for infinite random procedural generation, and the fact that they didn't lean into that more, yeah, it's really annoying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, it's $20.
Well, yeah, that's what Super
So
Panda says in the chat, isn't it? Only $20. And yeah, it is. It's only
yeah,
$20.
it's $20, and if this was an indie game, it'd be like people wouldn't be so harsh on it. I don't think, because it's kind of like, wow, this is like a $20. Just imagine this was an indie game. People would be like, oh wow, this is a $20 indie game, and look what it's trying to do and stuff like that, and look how good the combat feels and how good the music is and all that sort of stuff. But because it's Microsoft, I think it's fair to expect more of them. And it's kind of like, well, someone at Microsoft should have identified early on that this game has huge potential. Let's put some more resources into it. Let's put some more people into it.
Could it be a Sea of Thieves thing though, where like a year from now, 2 years from now, like so much is added to Minecraft Dungeons that it's completely different type of game from what it is today, or no?
Well, yeah, for sure. I think first of all, they confirmed today the first DLC with 3 new levels is coming in July, with new mobs, new uniques, and stuff like that. But what the game really needs is new systems. It needs like a rift system. It needs more randomness. It needs more procedurally generated stuff to give you a reason to keep trying new builds and trying out your gear and stuff like that. But they also said in that same announcement that they're going to add content for free that everyone will get, which is kind of like what they're doing in Sea of Thieves to keep that going. So I do think that like in a year from now, the game will be very different. But again, it's almost kind of like, well, are we in early access again for one of Microsoft's games? You know, because like you could argue that Sea of Thieves when it launched was effectively an early access game in all but name.
Yeah.
And now we got Minecraft Dungeons, which is effectively an early access game in all but name.
I mean, I like Minecraft Dungeons. I think they could have done a little bit more with it. I do find like some people that say like, oh well, what are you expecting for $20? It's like, well, I got Ori for $20, and Ori is a masterpiece, and like Path of Exile's free, and is a lot deeper, and some would say a lot better.
It also has 10 years development beyond
I'm just saying, you can't just because $20, there's games that are free and stuff. Like, I think it's something to build on. It was funny that there was no destruction in the game. Like there was barrels all around, but you couldn't destroy them.
Oh yeah, I've seen people complain about that. Like
I kind of feel
actually didn't notice
like
until people started saying about it.
That would have been like a cooler thing to do. But I mean, I enjoyed my first playthrough. It just was like, I would, like I said, give it a 7.5. I'm probably gonna play through it again. We're not gonna like rush through it, but it's like, hey, everybody's on. Let's run through some levels again or whatever. But
you've got it. The fun of these kind of games comes from like getting the uniques and then making a build out of it.
Yeah,
and
there is one thing I wanted to point out, and it was the review program that you talked about, right? Because as someone who reviews games myself, and like I don't do that as much as I used to, but I do think giving review, like I do think it's difficult to give reviewers the game and then say, by the way, embargo's in 2 days, right?
Yeah,
especially for a game that by all accounts gets better on the next difficulty and maybe even better on the third difficulty. But so, and I know people say, well, like you could just do review in progress, and sure, some people can do that, the bigger websites that essentially can, but it's just like, I feel like you should at least be able to get like 5 days, a week, preferably even more, so someone could essentially play through the game multiple times and actually craft a really good in-depth review, instead of having to be like, I need to knock this, I got 2 days, I have a day and a half, I need to get through this as much fast as I can, and I need to hit that embargo date, and I would imagine most people probably just blasted through that first playthrough, that 5 hours, and was like, okay, this is the game, I finished, I rolled credits, here's my review. And
well one thing that like
because of that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front, and Microsoft is generally pretty good about that. But I think coronavirus might have had an impact here, because they already delayed the game once. The game launched without Xbox and PC crossplay, which, by the way, you can access with a glitch, which is really funny. The game is unfinished, even in its current state. They basically polished what was there and then just been like, well, we'll get crossplay and the other stuff later. And like, it's funny because like half the API is there, because like when you go on Xbox Live and you look at your time played, it combines your PC and your Xbox time played, because it should be an Xbox Play Anywhere game, but it's not an Xbox Play Anywhere on the back end for some reason. And also the crossplay system doesn't work, even though you can glitch into it with by abusing the skins. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah,
Like yeah, so it's weird that it launched in this sort of weird state, but they said like all that stuff's been fixed, and this is a game they're selling at retail with Amazon and stuff like that. And when you start lining up those dates and putting those deadlines in place with retailers and stuff, it becomes like increasingly difficult to add further delays to into the mix. So I'm guessing they thought, well, we need to wait until the game's in at least relatively polished state before we start the review program. And I guess they just waited till the very, very last minute, which was a bit late. And I do think it hurt the game's review scores.
I think it came in a bit hot. I mean, the PC version had that weird issue with saying that, oh, you don't own the game, or they you know what I mean? And then like the whole like, if you use the uninstaller, it might just wipe everything on your hard drive on your PC.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like those are weird bugs to have. So I almost feel like the game came in pretty hot, just like Ori. Like Ori, remember, like Ori came in super hot. I don't know if you saw that, but I think they released their third patch like a couple weeks ago. They improved like the HDR, which now looks amazing. They improved like the dynamic resolution, so the frame rate stays steady all the time. Like it almost feels like that Ori should have launched like 2 weeks ago instead of when it did. Like that game barely made it out when it did. But yeah, so I don't know. It'd be interesting what everybody else thinks about Minecraft Dungeons. Let us know what you think in the comments. Are you enjoying it? I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that really are enjoying it. Like, I was talking to Gaming Forte last night, and he was loving playing it with his, his kids and stuff. I played a little bit with Cold Eastwood. We were having a good time. I played with my buddies. It was a good time, but it's one of those games where it's like I played through it once. It was fun, and I'm probably, never going to play it again, and maybe I should to see what the other difficulty is like, but it's just like, It kind of did feel like baby's first action RPG though, Jazz. It really did.
That's one thing that really bugged me in a lot of the reviews. Like they opened it with, "This is baby's first action RPG," but then like they completely missed some of the nuance in the gearing system, and they're like, "Oh, this doesn't work," or "I can't dodge roll properly," and it's like, well, maybe this really is your first RPG if you don't know that this is how these games work,
Yeah.
And I even saw some reviews that led with, "This is baby's first JRPG," and then complained it was too hard later on in the review. And it's like, well, come on,
Yeah.
So I think that the art style of Minecraft sort of betrays the complexity of the game, and it isn't as complicated as games like Diablo 3 or especially Path of Exile. Like Path of Exile's gearing is crazily complicated, and their sphere grid sort of passive skill tree and stuff like that. And and then Diablo with its greater rifts and all the passives you get in that game and the uniques, but both of these games have like literally like between them combined like decades worth of development behind them. So I'm hopeful that Minecraft Dungeons can get up to that level eventually as well.
Yeah.
I just, I'm sure it will too, because I reckon that the game, based on the amount of traffic we've been getting on it, I'm going to estimate that it's sold pretty well.
I mean, it is on every platform. It's on Xbox, it's on PlayStation, it's on Switch, it's on PC.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I saw PewDiePie was doing a stream of it, and Jacksepticeye, and it was doing pretty well on Twitch. I mean, Minecraft's huge. The game's probably going to do, exceptionally well. But moving on from that, I got to give a shout out to Gunstar. He says, "Rand, should Halo Infinite dump the Spartan abilities, run, scope, etc.? I say no." Man, this is like the internal debate between like all Halo fans who want it to remain as it was, and the ones that want it to evolve. And I don't really, I wouldn't want to be in 343's shoes to make those decisions, because you can go back and you can play the earlier Halo games, and they do feel a tad bit dated. especially compared
Well,
to
can't they
shooters of
just
now.
like
You know,
can't
like
they just do like a classic playlist if
they
they
could,
want to?
they do a classic playlist in Halo 5, but there's this discussion. Some people want run in the game, but some people don't want scope, or some people want scope but not run. Some people don't want any of that. Some people just want it to be Halo, and there's always the feedback of people who don't like Halo, like, well, I want to be able to run and do these things that I can do in Call of Duty, but then the hardcore Halo
Hmm.
players don't like that. It's almost like the same stuff with Gears. Like, the people that want Gears to evolve who don't like the multiplayer, like we want the Gears multiplayer to evolve, but then there's that very hardcore small Gears multiplayer community who don't want Gears to change whatsoever. You know? And it's interesting kind of discussion, like, well, what do you do? Do you cater to them? I don't know what they're gonna do for Infinite. Um, I mean, maybe they keep running, but they remove scoping, or like something along those lines. I personally didn't have a problem with the sprint in the multiplayer because I thought it was balanced correctly. Like, you couldn't regain your shields while you were sprinting. Um, so I don't have a problem with the run. Scoping, yeah, they could probably get away with, but I mean, down scoping is like a integral part to most shooters these days. So I guess it all depends on how it's done. But yeah, so there are a couple games that came out recently that I kind of want to play before the bigger games start coming out, like Maneater. Like, my buddy played that, and he said it was
Oh,
really good.
I did play
Oh,
Maneater.
you played
That is a
Maneater?
game. That is
Ah,
a game. That is another game that I
what'd
played.
you think of it?
I didn't like it.
Oh, you didn't like it. Okay, you didn't like being a shark eating people.
Well, I love the concept, but there's some serious issues with that game on console. Like, there's no because you're swimming around, right? In especially at the start of the game, you're swimming around in murky, swampy water. There's no sense of depth. There's no depth perception. So it's hard to aim the shark, right? And then the lock-on system is really bad because you constantly lose your target. And the camera controls are awful, like the worst camera controls I've ever seen in the game in a long time, at least. And my very, very initial experience kind of put me off it. I'm going to give it another try because, conversely, some of my colleagues love it and think it's game of the year so far. So, maybe I'm just being like a noob or something and need to figure out a better way of playing it. But as of this very second, I didn't have a super great time with it, to be honest.
Fair enough. Fair enough. My one buddy played it, and he really liked it. But I got Beaner8127 wants me to read this, Jazz. Poo poo pee pee doo doo butt. I just wanted to hear Rand read that. Love the show. Can't wait to listen tomorrow at work. Well, you got me to say it. I also bought the Saints Row the Third remaster because I heard it was actually like a really, really proper remaster. Like, actual work be putting into it, unlike the Mafia 2 remaster, which I guess was pretty bad. Like,
was it bad? I remember the screenshots being amazing, though.
Well, no, that was the Mafia remake, not Mafia 2.
Oh.
Yeah, the Mafia remake looks really good. So, moving on from the games, we're going to get into the topics. We got a whole bunch of stuff here to talk about. Xbox June event, the back compat stuff Xbox talked about, the PS5 event, which is I can probably tell is gonna be a very hot topic. Amazon basically had a huge bomb on their hands. Is cloud streaming done for good, Jez? Doesn't seem like Amazon or Google are getting off to a good start. Did they overestimate how hard it is to get into gaming?
I think maybe they did.
Sega. Who's buying Sega? Sony? Is Microsoft? Is Nintendo? Is Sega buying PlayStation? Is Sega buying Xbox? What are all these rumors? What are all these rumors? And you know what? Let's start with the Sega news, because I kind of find this a little bit fascinating. The Sega news. So, okay, let me try to find this for you, because I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read this guy's quote to you, and you can tell me what you think of it. Let me see if I can find it. Son of a bitch, where is it? I had it here, and I don't know where it is.
Professional podcasting.
I know, professional podcast. Hold on one second here. Oh, you know what? Let's actually talk about something else while I can find this. So let's talk about Let's talk about InXile, since they're your favorite studio, and how they've confirmed that they're working on Unreal Engine 5 for the next project, Jazz.
Hmm. Well, in Exile are like, they're known for Wasteland series, obviously. They also have like Bard's Tale, which is a cult. Let's call it a cult hit RPG. It's not exactly the most polished or amazing game series in the world, but it does have its fans, and it's got like this sort of old school dungeon crawler feel to it. I like what they're trying to do with that game, but I tried playing Bard's Tale 4 and it was just too rough for me. Um, you know. So there is obviously huge potential there, because the thing that never sucks about In Exile is their storytelling. Like Wasteland 2 had like maybe some rough engine, rough inventory, rough combat in some areas. But the storytelling was amazing and funny and all that sort of stuff. So to shore up some of their weaknesses, they've been hiring some pretty major talent over the last few months and years since joining Microsoft. I don't have names to the top of my head, but they've been poaching people from all over, like some of the major AAA studios and stuff like that, and that sort of thing. The fact that they're working with Unreal Engine 5 doesn't necessarily mean they're suddenly going to make a banger, though.
Mm.
Because remember when BioWare switched from their internal engine to Unreal Engine, the UE3 for Mass Effect. Yeah, it was a great game, no doubt about it. But the game was rough. It was a rough game. I don't care what anyone says. Like, I love Mass Effect 1. It's a masterpiece. But that engine is rough. Like, go and play that game in 2020. I forgot what year it was then. I was going to say 2019. I don't even know what year it is. But that game is rough, man. I don't care what anyone says. Like, you play that game now, it is rough. And then if you go to like Mass Effect 2, when they get a bit more expertise and a bit more experience with the engine, like it's such a massive improvement. It's kind of like State of Decay 2. It was their first experience working with Unreal, and you can kind of tell because State of Decay 2 is rough. That game is rough. So, I don't think working with Unreal necessarily means they're going to suddenly make an amazing, perfect
Well,
game.
I mean, duh. I mean, just because you're working with an engine doesn't mean the game you're making is going to be actually good.
Yeah,
Um, but
but
it was more like a lot of people thought the Unreal Engine 5 thing was exclusive to PlayStation when a lot of Xbox studios use it. There are rumors, pretty credible one from my understanding, that In Exile's next game, the one that they're working on, is a super high production AAA like sci-fi RPG
hmm,
essentially. So we'll have to, obviously, I don't think you're not going to see that game anytime soon.
no,
Um, but you have always told me that this was your favorite studio, or one of your favorite studios,
yeah.
and
I
that
mean, I've got, it's part of it's nostalgia. I
right,
love
right,
Brian
right.
Fargo. I love Interplay, old school stuff. I love the Wasteland IP. I love the old school Fallout games. So part of it's like nostalgia and a huge respect for what Brian Fargo does, and the world building skills of an Exile are pretty up there for me. Um, but like I say, they kind of have something to prove when it comes to production values. Like I've played Wasteland 3 quite a bit, and Wasteland 3 is a massive step up from Wasteland 2, but it still looks a little bit weird in places and stuff like that. Like you can still tell it comes from a crowdfunding place,
Mm,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if the game after Wasteland 3 is going to be this big step up, then I'm intrigued to see what they can do with Microsoft's money, basically.
Well,
I just hope that Microsoft actually gives them the time to make something that's big and has depth and all that sort of stuff. Because historically, Microsoft doesn't really go in for these giant RPG style games, you know?
true. I mean, the reason I even bring it up is because In Exile was a studio that I have question marks about, just like Compulsion and even to a certain degree Undead Labs, where like I get all the other studios because they have a track record, they have a proven history, et cetera, et cetera. I looked at In Exile and I'm like, I don't really see it. Just like I kind of looked at Compulsion, I'm like, not really seeing it. So if that studio can actually produce something good or great, then it'd be like, hey, you made the right choice. So I'm very interested in seeing what InXile can produce with Unreal Engine 5, and you know
I think part of it is people ask for RPGs.
they
People
do.
literally were begging Microsoft for RPGs for like ages. And
Yeah.
like, what do you do if you can either build an RPG studio and try to build an IP from the ground up, or you can, buy some studios. And they bought like Obsidian and InXile, which are like two of the best world building studios out there, And like Obsidian too, like they made great games, and the Outer Worlds was really great, but you can still tell there's sort of like there's still some rough edges. I kind of feel with like the Outer Worlds, and
A little bit, yeah. There's little rough edges that I think can be ironed out given time. You know.
the Pillars of Eternity as well. Rough edges, and I'm not a huge fan of that engine they use for that either. But you know, it's they got Microsoft's money now, and they got a lot of stuff to prove.
Yeah.
And people have these like it goes with Minecraft Dungeons too. Like people have these expectations of Microsoft, and it's kind of like Microsoft's this massive company. Why are they making like indie games? Basically, a lot of people ask that. I see that on my timeline all the time. Like I saw it in the chat earlier, where before we started, someone was like, "Microsoft only makes indie games or childish indie-looking games,"
Mm.
and obviously that's not true because we've got stuff like, Forza and Halo and Gears and stuff like that, which are more impressive in scope and production values wise. But there is something to be said about the volume of games that sort of erred on either smaller experiences or were sort of more oriented around online interaction as almost as a game mechanic. So I don't know. We just have to wait and see because, like you said, it's going to be a long time before we see that game.
Yeah. A very long time. And gotta give a shout out to Adam. He says, I have a feeling Tencent is buying Sega, sadly. I think Sega wanted more money and even said they wanted to expand just beyond exclusives. True
I
Witty
think
says
that guy might be right.
True Witty says Xbox can't buy Sega for legal reasons in Japan. And
That's not true.
JD Gamer says, seeing it scheduled at virtually the same time as the Sony event leads me to believe this is industry-shaking news has something to do with Sony. That is true. That info is supposed to come out on the 4th, which is the same day as the PlayStation stuff. And JD Gamer...
Oh my god.
What?
How about this? Well, read that super chat first.
He says,
and then I'll give you my
isn't the new Xbox Game Studios new model a need to produce a game every 24 to 36 months, so most studios have multiple teams so they have consistent games for Game Pass? I mean, a lot of the studios do have multiple teams. And obviously...
I don't know if there's a hard mandate in place.
No, there's
for
not.
that.
There's not a hard mandate. At least from my understanding. Like, a lot of them have different teams, but I mean, they're not going to release games if they're not ready. But I mean, they want to release a big AAA game every quarter is their stated goal, or their goal they want to move towards. So, the Sega thing, Jez, because I think this is interesting because some of this could just be hype for his own article, but the words he used are really weird. Okay, so I found the article, and he says first off, it's not about the Dreamcast 2 because he kind of clarified, and it is about Sega, right? But he says, so my column in the next week's issue of Famitsu is crazy. I got a huge scoop. It's a world premiere article, and it's an exclusive, world exclusive.
World premiere
exclusive gameplay. It may not be Nikki or Weekly Bunshin, which I don't know what those are. Those must be like high profile Japanese like magazines or whatever. But if you want to know if it's a scoop that big, it totally is. It's a scoop from a game company that everyone loves, which is Sega. It's an insane scoop. Last year, Wired got the exclusive story on PlayStation 5, right? Other media didn't. It's that level of a scoop. I interviewed a certain company's executive and technical staff. It's really revolutionary. Really, it's a revolution. And he goes on to say, it'll be in Famitsu next Thursday. I already sent in my manuscript, so the proofs are being made now. It's a scoop on a level that when the story comes out, other media will make a fuss to the company like, why didn't you let us cover it? Maybe people will say, who was the first to break that story? It was Zenshi Nishiwagi, whatever you say this guy's name, right? It's a scoop as major as the PlayStation 5 scoop. I just wanted to say that in advance. So, after hearing this guy hype it up, Jez, what could it be?
The thing is, if you hype something up like that and it doesn't deliver, then it can be really damaging to your career. So, as I know. So, I would hope that he's not overhyping something. But I was going to say, Rand, before you kind of poured cold water over it, I was going to say Tencent's buying Sega and they're going to make the Dreamcast 2 together. But I guess that's not the case. I have no idea, man. I haven't heard anything at my end about Sega, and people who I speak to who are industry, insiders or whatever, they haven't heard anything specific to this. So I have literally no idea what it possibly could be. I feel like if it was Microsoft buying Sega, I kind of feel like I would know.
You feel like you would already know. But you didn't know about some of the studios that Microsoft bought. Like, you didn't know about Ninja Theory. You didn't know about, some of it leaked, but some of them didn't. You don't think they could have kept them buying Sega under wraps?
Maybe they did, but I don't know. I feel like somewhere someone we speak to would have known and they would have told us about it. I feel like maybe not. Maybe like these things are even easier to keep secret, but I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. The fact that he calls it a revolution, he's talking to technical guys, which implies it's something hardware related or maybe some cloud streaming service. Like, comparing it to the first scoop about the PlayStation 5, like, those are big things. Granted, it could just be him hyping his article, and then everybody reads it, and it's like nothing really important whatsoever, and everyone's like, what the hell? I mean, there was some smoke about a Sega Xbox partnership. Suddenly, Phil goes to Japan, comes back, and PS, Phantasy Star 2's on Xbox and now on Windows 10 when it never came before. The Yakuza games are on Game Pass. It definitely seems
maybe I don't know. Like the amount of hype he's talking about doesn't seem to match anything that it could realistically be that we would consider to be a big deal.
Well, then, but then you also got to look like
who cares?
It is about to be announced potentially right around the PlayStation event.
Yeah, but like some people would say that means that it must be PlayStation related, but that could also mean that someone wants to take the shine off PlayStation's event as well.
I guess that's possible. I just find it funny, like the idea of Microsoft acquiring Sega would leak in a Famitsu interview. You know what I mean?
Well, that's how you start trying to break the Japanese market. You got to make waves like that,
Yeah, and Sega would be a big one. But I don't know, the way it reads, like I interviewed an executive and a technical staff. It means to me like hardware related, or maybe some like, Sega's doing some cloud streaming thing, or something.
Maybe. When they release the Xbox Series X in Japan, they're gonna brand it as the Dreamcast 2.
Xbox Dreamcast, or the Sega. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
And it'd be like Sega's. That's how they sell the Xbox in Japan. Is make like a Sega box, and then I don't know. It comes bundled with like every one of their games.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Shout out to the Darge Knight. The fire rises, brother. He says, so if, say, Sony announces some form of free back compat for PS5, Sony fans will be annoyed, right? Who wants to play old games, right? Hashtag stay salt free. So, I mean, obviously, this is about the back compat stuff. I mean, Sony's already announced the back compat for PlayStation 4. But who wants to play old games is an interesting thing, because it's not so much that I'm going to buy the Series X to play the older games that I do have, but it is reassuring to know that all my purchases will be there if I want them to be. It's one of those things with back compat where it's like it's a feature what's the saying? Like it's a feature that you man, I there's a really cool saying that goes along with this, and I can't like work it out in my head, but it's like, it's something that you'd rather need and not have, or have and not need. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, God, well,
I know you
how's
said.
it go? Um,
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, but I
Shut
know
up,
you
Chaz.
mean.
You
It's
know
like
what I'm talking about.
it's just like one of those things that's nice to have, and it's about your investments, right? Like I remember when I got my Xbox One originally, before they added backwards compatibility to it, I was like, oh well, I've got to keep all my 360 games. And like even now at home at my parents' place, before I moved out, like all my 360 games are still there because it's like I thought, well, I need to keep those. And then my Xbox 360 is in the drawer because it's like, well, I need to keep that. But now it's kind of like, well, I can switch. I can just take my entire library with me, and it's just sort of comforting to know. And even though, yeah, maybe I won't go back and maybe I won't play Wasteland 2 again, or maybe I won't go back and play, like, I don't know, whatever else game is on that old system. But Microsoft has this sort of unique position in the sense that they like preserving software. The fact that I can run a Microsoft DOS game from the 80s on Windows 10 without any sort of problem is kind of like it's kind of where they come from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think like and this argument that PlayStation fans don't care about it is kind of funny to me, because like I saw a poll from IGN's readers, which I think is a pretty good slice of the sort of general engaged gaming audience, right? They're the biggest site and they have the biggest audience. So, and it was like the number one thing people were interested in hear about with regards to PlayStation 5 was backwards compatibility, with like 40% of the vote, which kind of says to me that people do care about their investments transferring over. And,
Of course,
but the thing is that
people care.
won't, yeah, but that's not going to sell Xboxes though, because people are on PlayStation already. They don't have any investments on Xbox to need to transfer. So it's like it's a nice thing for Xbox fans who are already in the ecosystem, sure. But if you're a PlayStation fan, it's not like switching to Xbox is suddenly going to get you all those games.
Yeah.
So
And Judah had something to say about the Sega thing. He says, "How would buying Sega be revolutionary? Probably just wireless VR crap." And that's the other thing. It's like, how is an acquisition revolutionary? But no, I mean, so like we're gonna talk about the Xbox Series X back compat stuff. Like they came out on Thursday, yesterday, and they announced more details about the back compat situation. Basically, almost their goal is to have every Xbox One game that you can play right now on Xbox One available at launch on the Xbox Series X, excluding some games that won't be there because of tech issues or licenses, and that includes the 360 games and the OG Xbox games. But like the bigger announcements was that basically HDR, like they'll, because of what they're doing with like machine learning and what the coalition did with Gears 5, and like Halo 5 and stuff, like essentially a lot of the older games will actually get HDR support, and it's a platform level feature that Microsoft is doing, and no work by the developers is required, and it doesn't take up any resources. So that's pretty crazy that a game essentially, from 10 years ago when there was no such thing as high dynamic range, will suddenly now potentially feature high dynamic range, because HDR, when done properly, is freaking amazing. Like Sea of Thieves, say what you will about Sea of Thieves, but that game looks stunning on an OLED with HDR. Like Doom Eternal looks ridiculous in HDR. Like if you do HDR properly, it looks so freaking good. So
yep.
if you can kind of do some of that stuff for almost all the games, or a large selection of stuff, that's amazing. And I love the idea. And even though like I'm not that big on back compat, because like I played a lot of the 360 games, I don't really own any of my physical 360 games anymore. Like I did have some like digital arcade stuff, and I played almost everything I wanted. So I'm not really interested in going back, but there is a sense of satisfaction and comfort knowing that when I buy an Xbox Series X, everything I bought is there if I want to play it. And it's better, and it's more than that, knowing that it's not just enough that the games are there, but they're actually enhanced, because the games will essentially be resolution bumped up to 4K if it's possible. The frame rate will be smoothed out. So if it was like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a game that could barely hit 30 frames at times, or could barely hit 40 frames when you ran in performance mode, that game's probably going to be smooth sailing. There's tons of games like that where you can talk about how frame rate was an issue that'll probably be solved by that. And you're like, wow, not only am I getting back compat, not only all my purchases being honored that I spent, but the games are now running better and looking better than ever before. And I think that's amazing. And
I went, me and my brother were, because I don't know why, but recently me and my brother just decided to go back through the Gears of War games, and we played like Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which never got bumped up to 4K on the Xbox. It never got 4K enhancements on the Xbox One X, Xbox One X, but Gears of War 2 did get the sort of special Xbox One X enhanced treatment, and it looks really good. So like some textures, just the resolution isn't there for some textures, but like the character models look great, and it's smoother and all that sort of stuff. And you know, it was just cool to see it enhanced and upscaled in a way that I hadn't seen it before. It gave it like a new lease on life almost.
yeah.
So I think like some games, it's like you say, some games that struggle on current gen systems will be more, I don't know, vibrant on the Xbox Series X, and it's just kind of a nice to have sort of thing. And I think the most important thing here is the fact that it's all sort of software based, and it's not really something that developers are going to have to invest their time and effort into make happen. It's just going to work.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately what you want out of this sort of thing, because it's like, it's not something that I don't think necessarily it's going to sell systems to anyone on the other side, quote unquote, because like I say, people haven't made those investments. But for Xbox fans, it's a really, really nice thing to have, and I'm glad it's there. And I almost take it for granted now. I take things like cloud saves for granted too. Like when I play like Minecraft Dungeons, and I tried to play, because I started reviewing it on PC, and I was like, I'm going to switch to Xbox because my room's getting really warm at the moment. And my Xbox just runs cooler than my laptop does for whatever reason. But then I had to start over if I wanted to play it on my PC, because cloud saves aren't in the game yet. And I was like, oh my God, I really take that for granted. Like, I just expect cloud saves to be there for every Microsoft game. And now that it's not there, I'm annoyed about it. So,
well, so
if back compat wasn't there, I'd be annoyed about it.
Yeah, and they also mentioned like the ability to double frame rates from 30 to 60 and 60 to 120 in certain games, if you know it's allowed that. I do feel it's funny that this also started basically a a back and forth between Xbox and PlayStation. Like the tweet that Microsoft sent out yesterday and that article were clear shots at the PlayStation 5. They specifically mentioned no boost mode and no downclocking, which is, you know, PS4 Pro boost mode, and the downclocking on the console, which is how, you know, PlayStation's gonna basically do the back compat, right? Like it's like every game will take full advantage of Series X, not just some of them, right? Like it's clear shot at Sony, and then today Sony's taking shots at Xbox. It's like, man, it's begun. Like, it's taken a little bit of time to get here. And part of me thinks the reason Xbox even did this is because I think they have a feeling they know what Sony's back compat's going to be like. You know, because, like, there was the whole thing with Cerny about, like, you know, he said all the 100 games, and then, like, Sony had to later come out and say, no, like, it'll be, like, 4,000, right? But in their PR release, they didn't say launch. So there's the thought that while I fully believe eventually the PlayStation will be back compat with, like, the PS5 will be back compat with virtually almost all the PlayStation 4 games, I would not be shocked to see at launch of the PlayStation 5 the back compat is going to be a set amount of games, like a very small set amount of games. And Xbox is going to focus on their back compat as a defining feature because, and as we're going to talk about with this PS5 event and everything that Jim Ryan was saying today, like marketing 101 or PR, like market your strengths and downplay your weaknesses, right? And Microsoft used their backwards compatibility program and everything that goes on with that as one of their core strengths. And clearly, I don't think Sony necessarily views it as strongly. So to me, it makes sense why Microsoft is going to go that avenue, just like it makes total sense while PlayStation is going off of the avenue of like, leave the generation behind. Like, we need to put out games that PlayStation 5 fans will be excited for. Like, we believe in generations. You know what I'm saying? Because that's Sony's strength, and that's how they're going to market their console versus how Xbox is doing it. It's like,
what bugs me about this whole thing is like when fanboys advocate for something that hurts them. It's like, oh yeah, it's good that Sony's ditching back compat. I don't want my games on the next gen system. It's like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want them? I don't get that. Like, why would you so blindly follow the marketing stuff to the point where you're acting like it's a good thing that you're missing a feature?
yeah.
You should want backwards compatibility if it's there. I mean, if Sony was transparent and just said, look, we never built the PlayStation 4 architecture or the PlayStation 5 architecture in such a way that would let us scale games in the same way that Microsoft did with the Windows kernel. And because of that, we can't get all the backwards compatible games there, and we're going to do our best to try and bring some thousands of games later on over the coming years or whatever. That'd be one thing. But the fact that they're trying to spin it as a positive and people are buying it, that's just funny to me, man.
All right, so we got super chat from Gunstar who says Sega Cloud streaming. So that's what he thinks. JD Gamer says Persona, Yakuza, Sonic, Phantasy Star for current IPs. Knights, Jet Set Radio, Crazy Taxi, Outrun, House of the Dead, or classic Sega is an IP rich. They do have a lot of IP. And let's see, we got one from Squirrely Dan. Listening in the past, Apex has permanent duos. Thank you for the correction. And P. Diddy says, what would really impress the masses in July? The show would have each studio head talk about their future plans like Ninja Theory diary videos did. That was a very I agree, like Ninja Theory's video about what they're all working on was very well done, and it gave a sense of like, this is what you can expect from Ninja Theory in the future. I'm not sure that would necessarily work for the other studios, or maybe the other studios don't want to do anything like that. Maybe like Ninja Theory wanted to do that, but I think like kind of a more open approach is obviously best. Christopher Hart says PlayStation 5 is 4,000 back compats. Yeah, it probably will, but get back to me at launch, Christopher Hart, because I don't think it will have 4,000 at launch. Maybe you need to go back and read that PR piece they put out where they didn't say anything about launch. Anyways, Jez, the Xbox June event. Have you heard anything about it?
I haven't heard anything about it. Only what's out there that it might be hardware focused or something.
Yeah,
I haven't really been into it.
Jeff Grubb says it's focused on hardware, Xbox Series X. Maybe a deeper dive into some of the things. And then, of course, that always brings up Lockhart. What's going on with Lockhart, Jez? Where's this console? People doubt that its existence.
I don't know.
What's happening? Where's it at?
I don't know.
Are you lying? Did you make this up? You made up Xbox Lockhart, didn't you?
I did. I made it up for clicks. You got me, man. You got me, pal. I made it up for clicks. Oh, me and Brad Sams made it up for clicks. And it's weird. Both Android Schreier. And we all of us made it up for clicks simultaneously at the same time. But I don't know. I said before on the podcast, I've spoken to developers who are building games for it. So if this thing is cancelled or doesn't exist, somebody's wasting their time right now. A lot of people are wasting their time right now. But we also said before on, I believe, last week's show that the narrative of Lockhart is the price. You don't come out and announce a console that's less powerful without being able to announce the price, because the whole point of it is the price. So I don't think we'll see it until they've locked the prices down. But maybe they could announce the price at the June show.
Do you really think that? Because I don't expect Sony to announce the price at their June show at all.
Well, what if Microsoft thinks they know the price of the PlayStation 5? That might be a time when they announce the price of the Xbox. But I don't know how Microsoft could possibly know that. I mean, they know things about the PlayStation 5 from developers who probably and stuff like that, but I don't know how they know the price of the console. But that ultimately is the whole point of Lockhart, is to undercut the PlayStation 5, isn't it? Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yes.
So, until they know how much of an undercut it is and how to position it, I don't think we'll know for sure about when that's going to be released. But I could be totally wrong, and Microsoft just might be like, you know what, screw it. We need to get this out there. We need developers to know that they need to target it, or they can target it, or whatever. Because it's getting a bit close to launch to not talk about a whole console, isn't it? And also, these things will be going into production now, and the things will start leaking, no doubt, from factories and stuff like that. So,
well, Gunstar wants to know if there's much enthusiasm for Lockhart amongst the devs you talk to who are working on it.
There's no negativity about it. You got to remember, when it comes to like Xbox development, it's just a case of like tweaking a few numbers in a config file and then testing it out. I mean, yeah, maybe like some smaller devs won't want to optimize for multiple endpoints, but at the end of the day, if Microsoft can prove that it leads to a bigger install base and it's worth it in the long run, then I don't think they'll be annoyed about it. There's this whole myth about Xbox that Lockhart will hold games back and all that sort of stuff. That's not how modern game development works. It just isn't, you know. Like it's like saying like a GTX 1060 holds back PC games on the high end.
But Sony's doing a good job of essentially implying that's the case, though.
Yeah, they are, but that's
good marketing. Which is a good marketing angle to take, because, like I said, play to your strengths, downplay your weaknesses. And Sony's strengths, at least as they see it, is they're going to have exclusives. So they play that up and then say our games aren't being held back, and it works. People eat that up.
So yeah, Sony plays dirty, and they're good at it, and people lap it up. People are out there believing Unreal Engine 5 is platform exclusive, you know, and Epic wouldn't even talk to us about the Xbox version of it. So, you know, God knows what's going on there, but it is what it is, you know.
So the June event, Jeff Grubb says, like, you know, it's hardware related and stuff. Do you think it's important? Because do you think it's an Inside Xbox event? I guess that's the thing. Like, if it is, does that mean we shouldn't expect much from it, or do you think Xbox is gonna do things differently, or what do you think they've taken away from the feedback from the May thing?
Well, this is the funny thing, right? We always talk about how like Inside Xbox now has become a brand that is associated with disappointment. It's like when if they announce that this is an Inside Xbox, instantly lots of us are going to be like, "Oh, great! It's going to be another one of those shows again." And you know, it's just the reality of it. Like most Inside Xboxes have been disappointing or had mismanaged expectations, and that's just the reality of it. If Microsoft doesn't want to accept that reality, then that's on them. But it's the reality of it that Inside Xbox has become associated with disappointment. I can't remember ever being particularly excited about an Inside Xbox show. I can't remember there being any particularly super groundbreaking announcements from Inside Xbox. But they can turn that around by actually having an Inside Xbox that is good, So it depends ultimately on what format they're going to take. I'm not a massive fan of the Inside Xbox format. I think like some of the idea Xbox showcases were done way better. Just let the devs talk, let the gameplay do the talking. There's no need for all this like hello fellow kids meme stuff and influencers and weird stuff going off. I don't care about any of that stuff. Most gamers don't care about any of that stuff. I don't know why companies like it's not just Microsoft that does this either. It's like loads of companies seem to do this sort of out of touch sort of stuff. But it is what it is. Like hopefully Microsoft can like read the room and maybe improve things. But they'll be under the pressure because like I said on Twitter earlier, when Sony announces an event, people get hyped because they generally deliver pretty well. Like they're not the best at presenting hardware maybe sometimes. Like I remember the PlayStation reveal, like that weird slid out of slid out of like some sort of shelf thing, and I don't know. Like they're not the best at presenting hardware, but Microsoft has like the Surface team to lean on for some of that stuff, which for some reason Microsoft does that really well. But then when it comes to the games, they're not as good as Sony's presenting the games. So and that's ultimately the thing that matters. Like ultimately you don't care about the box sitting under your TV. You care about what it does and how it plays and what games are running on it. And Microsoft hasn't been great at presenting that in ages past. Do you remember that whole Gears presentation from E3 last year? Was it last year? With the whole underground segment
with the they give you that trailer with Kate and then you go underneath the stage.
That was awful.
Yeah,
I hated that so
It was
bad.
like, hey, come down to Mixer to check out the Escape gameplay with these WWE wrestlers. Yeah, I remember that well.
I hated that. I hated that so bad.
Shout out to Victor Allison who says Sega handheld. Sega won't tout a buyout. I mean, there's always a possibility Sega gets back in the handheld business. The
Game Gear. Did you have a Game Gear?
I did not have a Game Gear. And
I had a Game Gear.
Faisal007, he says, since ponies are listening to this podcast, why did the tweet of Xbox account, hey, your mic is muted, generated more likes and interaction than PlayStation's Last of Us 2 tweets? Damage is done. I have no idea what you're talking about or what tweet you're talking about.
Well, I could weigh in on this, being a social media manager myself.
Oh, okay.
But like, Xbox tweeted, "Hey, your mic is muted." Just a single line, and the reason that did well is because it resonates with everybody. Like, if you're a PC gamer, if you're a PlayStation gamer, if you're any kind of gamer, that tweet resonates with you, and that's how like the most viral tweets are the ones that you relate to, and that tweet relates to a lot of people. Now, the Last of Us stuff only relates to people who are into The Last of Us. And yeah, there's a lot of them, but it's not like PC gamers can't get in on that action, and Switch gamers can't get in on that action, and Xbox gamers can't get in on that action. So like, man, even like hey, your mic is muted. That even resonates with people who are working from home right now, who like who are doing their meetings over Skype or Slack or Microsoft Teams. Like, that tweet was just a really good tweet, and it identifies with everyone. That's why that tweet got more interest. It's nothing to do with Last of Us not being compelling. That's just how social media works.
In my opinion, Last of Us is really compelling. I started to watch the state of play for it, and I turned it off after a couple minutes because I was just like, I'm gonna be playing this game in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't need to see any more of this.
Yeah, it's like, I haven't watched it at all because like I don't have. That's like one game that I don't have to cover because we don't cover PlayStation. It's like, well, I know I'm gonna play it, and I saw one GIF of it with Ellie stabbing someone.
Yeah,
and I was just like,
Ellie stabbing a girl who was using a Vita, a PlayStation Vita in 2020. Yeah,
that was all I needed. That was all I needed to know that I was going to play it. I don't need to say anything else because, I want to go in as blind as possible. I went into the original Last of Us completely blind, and it blew my mind. So
that's kind of what I want to see from Halo Infinite. Just a developer like Chris Lee, talking over 10 minutes of Halo Infinite single player and campaign. That's what I want. Like showcasing the game. This is what it does. These are maybe some of the improvements on Series X. Like, that's what I want to see. And granted, like you can probably do that closer to get to launch. You don't necessarily have to do it right now, or you don't. You know what I mean? Like, but like when August or September comes, like I kind of wish Xbox would do more of, hey, we have a game coming out. Here's a dedicated stream for that game to tell you all about. Maybe obviously, Minecraft Dungeons wouldn't be a good example because there's really not much to explain to that. But like, make it seem like your games are hype worthy to do
here's the thing.
Individual things for them. Like, hey, Halo's coming out. Here's a dedicated 25-minute Halo stream where you go over everything. Oh, like Gears 5's coming out. Here's this whole thing about it, or Fable's about to come out. You know what I mean? Like that sort of level of presentation right before it comes out. I would love if like Xbox did that for all their games.
They actually did Minecraft Dungeons developer diaries that were really well done on the Minecraft YouTube channel, and I have no idea why Microsoft didn't push them more, because they were really good, and they were honestly some of the best like developer diary style videos they've done. And it's kind of like, well, why didn't they do that for Gears 5? Why didn't they do that for like a bunch of other games? And maybe they did, and I just didn't see it. But someone, I think it might have been you even, told me about that Halo used to do these vid doc series.
Did. Yeah, hey, Bungie used to do vid docs. Yep, 100%.
Like, why don't they do something like that? What would they like?
They're great. They would go. I mean, it's been a long time since I've watched a Halo vid doc, but they would go over everything about the game. Aspects of like maybe the recording of the audio or the music or the multiplayer changes, or like the DLC that was about to come out, and explaining, their thought process and what you could expect. Like Bungie was pretty good with those vid docs, and I remember being really excited back then when they would release those videos. I mean, granted, like YouTube was in its infancy and all those different things, and social media really didn't exist, like as it does right now. But I just kind of feel like I think Xbox could present their games in a better manner, and like maybe like showcase them to make it seem like they're huge like experiences, and doing the stream. Not saying everyone needs to be a 20-minute thing, but like, hey, we're gonna do on the official Xbox channel. We have Forza Horizon 5 coming out, and we're gonna give a 10-minute overview for it. A month or two before launch, and you do that for all the games, and it's like that's what you do. I mean, you don't necessarily have to do that during like an E3 July event thing, but you can do it individually for each one of the games. That's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with me or not. That's what I would like to see. Maybe other people don't. I know a lot of people do like the quick cut gameplay trailers. Those don't really do much for me, but gotta give a shout out to Victor. He says maybe Xbox should tout the CryEngine for June. I don't think they're gonna. CryEngine, that's owned by Crytek. I don't think they're gonna do anything with that. And Dirk Griggity says Xbox is going after Sony this time. Do you guys think that it will help make Xbox show better, or is Xbox show already set? Great show, guys. Thanks, Dirt. I think a lot of what Xbox is showing is set. I think they're already doing reviews of the show and the content that is supposed to be there. Remember, if you recall, in the beginning of April, when nobody had said anything about these events, and I came out and said, I know there's an event in May, and it's the first week of May, and I know there's an event in June. And then eventually I was also be like, the event in June is pretty much July now, right? So this event that was in July was supposed to be in June, so the content, or at least the people that were supposed to be there, has kind of already been planned, and they're just reviewing content, making sure everybody can get there. Maybe some things that, couldn't be in the May thing are now in this other one, but I mean, these things. Remember, E3 was supposed to happen this year. Obviously, the world changed, but I would imagine most of the things Xbox were planning with their partners and their first party that they were going to showcase at E3 was just basically shifted into a digital format to do for the June show, which became the July show. Now, what can Xbox change or learn? It's interesting because Sony's show is next week, which we're about to talk about in a minute here. So Microsoft does have over a month to maybe, change some things. If they feel like Sony didn't push far enough on this, that they could then push even more heavily on something. Like you already see Microsoft really pushing strong about backwards compatibility dirt, right? And I think it's partially because they know what the back compat program is going to be like on PlayStation in the beginning. So that's why you kind of see Microsoft going heavy with it right now. And which is why you see PlayStation going heavy into the whole scenario of we got exclusives, because they know Xbox doesn't have any Series X exclusives, for the most part from first party. But I think a lot of the content is set. It's just people are, it's just being kind of talked over, and what's the best thing to show, and how long each things can be, and who talks, or if you even talk, and how long is it going to be, like stuff like that. How do you market this, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You agree, Jazz? Disagree?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah. So
a lot of it's going to be set in stone in regards to like videos and stuff like that. But I think that could tweak some things, maybe bring some things forward. Like, like they had basically announced the Elder Scrolls 6 with just sort of like, yeah, we're working on it, but don't expect it anytime soon, just to shut people up. Like, I wouldn't mind if they did something like that for some games that are further afield, just to keep people interested. I don't know why Microsoft like doesn't really do that sort of stuff. I would hope that each studio gets at least some time at the July event. And it's a lot of studios to cover in like an hour, I guess. But
yeah, we'll have to wait and see how long it's going to be. And we already know Sony's planning on doing multiple events, so it's gonna be a really interesting next couple months. But hey, if you guys are enjoying the show, I know we got almost like 900 here on Friday on May 29th. Make sure you hit the like button, share this out, subscribe, all that stuff. And Xbot in the chat says, Rand, I think PlayStation 5 is going to have a second-party launch lineup. I don't think Sony's first party are ready. Well, I mean, dude, I don't think you got long to wait, Xbot. I think we'll find out next week. I do think they'll have first-party games ready. I mean, they may not be on the scale of Horizon Zero Dawn, but I think they'll have stuff there. JD Gamer says, which event will have the higher production quality, Sony's June event or Microsoft July event? And what are we really supposed to get out of the Microsoft June event? Well, for the June event, I mean, all we really know is Jeff Grubb saying that it's focused on Series X, about the hardware. We don't really know what. We don't know if Lockhart will be there. So I haven't heard anything about it. Jez says he hasn't heard anything about it. The people I talk to don't really know anything about it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll eventually find out, but I haven't heard much about it, so I have no idea what's going to be there. Production quality, I would not be surprised if Sony's event next week is high production. I think one of the things they maybe took away from the Sony presentation was how it looked and how it came across. And I think they want to change that. And I also, obviously, there's a lot of feedback on Microsoft's Inside Xbox with the, not so good mics and the horrible webcams. And I think Sony kind of wants PlayStation to be regarded as super professional. So I think it'll be a well-produced show. Now, the July event, I don't know. I hope it's nothing like the May event. I hope it's a much more well-produced, like, segment. But I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Jez?
Sorry, can you repeat that last bit?
the production quality of Sony's June event or Microsoft's July event, which will be better?
Well, we talked a bit about this before the show. I think like I think what Microsoft were going for is like I think they tried to like almost comfort people to be like, yeah, we're all in this together, because it was like the virus stuff was in full swing, and like pretty much everyone was doing this, you know, work from home stuff, and still are. Like the virus hasn't magically disappeared, although like the curve has flattened in a lot of countries, as in Britain, and basically totally flat in Germany. People are still socially distancing and not going to work and stuff like that. People have still lost their jobs, and it's still like a bit of a shitty time. So I think like they kind of wanted to show that rolling this together and stuff like that. But I think at the same time, it would have been nicer to have like a bit of normalcy and be like, oh, things are still kind of normal with high production value shows, stuff like that, which I get isn't possible in this current event, but I don't think it kind of landed the way they wanted it to. But the thing is, Microsoft surely can afford to get them better equipment. I don't think basically, long story short, I don't think Sony's going to be doing the webcam thing.
No.
They like it. Sony's kind of like Apple in that regard, as they're very, very controlling of the way their hardware's perceived, and like that's what they do because they're a hardware company, you know. Whereas Microsoft's and Xbox is a little bit more. I don't want to say rough around the edges, but it's almost run like a startup in a few ways, I guess. And I think that comes down to the fact that it's not as critical to Microsoft to be so controlling over where things are perceived, because ultimately they've got infinite money. Oh well, not infinite money, but you know what I mean. It's not as crucial to them that everything be polished and super controlled all the time and stuff like that. And I've noticed like the Xbox socials in general have gotten a lot edgier lately, a lot more risky, a lot less corporate sounding, without going full blown hello fellow kids either. Like it's that the socials have actually been pretty good lately. And I think that's something to do with Stein getting a job at Xbox socials.
It
Maybe.
might have to be. Might do, yeah. Game Genie Prime says, less talk show games, just spill your vault of knowledge. So he wants you to tell everything
I don't know.
your vault of knowledge.
I don't know anything right now, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about the PlayStation 5 event. It's on June 4th. There were talks that it was on June 3rd. Obviously, dates shift around because of what's happening. As I mentioned before, like the Xbox May event was like May 5th, and it was May 6th, and it ended up being May 7th. Things move around. The June event became the July event. It's just how things are right now. But it's June 4th, so less than a week. Thursday next week. It's at 1 p.m. Pacific. PlayStation is saying like, hey, this is the future of gaming. You already see some developers coming out there and be like, who's the developer from Bluepoint? Because I see a lot of people retweeting him, and what did he say? I'm going to see if I can find his tweet. It was basically, I'm so excited for the future. It's time to push forward and leave our old gaming limitations behind us, which goes into, what Jim Ryan said about, like, wanting giving PlayStation fans or PlayStation 5 fans, something like basically saying that, like, we're going to have exclusives, and PlayStation's going to have a ton of exclusives that you can only play on PlayStation 5. It's just a fact. They have different strategies, Xbox and PlayStation, and, one of them, not going to say both can be right. One can be right, one can be wrong. It's like both can also be right at the same time. But what do you think? What are you expecting to see from this event, Jazz? They say it's about an hour. Do you expect to see the console? Do you expect to see the price? Do you expect to see the release date? What games do you think will be there? Give me your list, and I'll tell you what I'm expecting from the show.
I'll be honest. Like when it comes to like talking about Microsoft and stuff, I kind of have a better handle on like what they're going to do because I follow them for my job, right? But when it comes to Sony, it's a lot more sort of like guesswork because I don't really follow Sony that closely. I don't have to for work. and as such, I don't know what their typical patterns of behavior is, but I do expect one thing that as a sort of casual onlooker of Sony, like I do have a PlayStation and I am looking forward to Last of Us and stuff. I still want to play God of War. I still have not got around to that, but I kind of expect a more polished show because that's what Sony do, right? And also I'm expecting them to go big in a way that Microsoft just didn't with the June show.
Mm.
But for the details, I'm going to defer to you because I don't really watch their stuff, to be honest. So what
Yeah.
do you
All right.
think,
So
Ryan?
what do I think? I don't think we'll get price. I think Sony's going to hold on for price for a long time. And even today, Jim Ryan was kind of hinting that the price is going to be a little bit more expensive than people think. I know my buddy, my pal, my friend Dealer Gaming has been on the $399 train for quite some time, but he's going to be wrong. And I keep on telling him that. You're going to be wrong, Dealer. The PlayStation 5's, in my opinion, I think is going to be $499. He talked about how the value of the PlayStation 5 doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the cheapest or the lowest price point. I think the PlayStation 5 is going to be 500, but I think Microsoft and Sony are both having a who blinks first contest. Because I think they kind of don't want to be the first one to say $499. They want the other one to say it. And or maybe they can come in sneakily, like Microsoft says $499 and oops, Sony comes in with $399. Like so like I think that's not going to happen. Now for the box, I'm not sure we'll see it at this event, but I do think we'll see it separately, maybe even like as early as Monday. I would not be surprised if they kind of start building the hype for next week, and then like Monday or Tuesday they show the box. One of the Bloomberg reporters is saying like it's about to enter full production, and Sony's really worried about leaks. So I think they want to control that because they were worried about the DualSense controller leaking, which is why they put together and sent that out to everybody and been like, here's what the controller looks like. So I think we'll see the box pretty soon. It may not be at the show, but maybe it's like a separate thing. I think this show will be mostly, and I don't even know about a release date. I think you might get the release date. I mean, they already confirmed that they're on plan for a global launch in the holiday. I don't know if they mentioned November. Maybe they did, but I'm pretty positive the system's supposed to be coming out in September or November. As for games, I know Xbox mentioned a second party thing, and they're gonna have a bunch of second party, like they have bought a bunch of exclusives, but I think the big showcase game is gonna be Horizon Zero Dawn 2. And I think that game's gonna melt people's eyeballs. Horizon Zero Dawn 1 was already a great looking game. I think that game is going to look stunning, but I don't think that game's a launch title. I think Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is early next year, like say March 2021, right? I think you see the new Demon Souls, the remake by Bluepoint. I mean, obviously the guy who is, I think, the CEO of Bluepoint or whatever, he's already retweeted that their game's gonna be there. It's been long rumored to be a Demon Souls remake. I think that's 100% true. That game's gonna be there. It'll be a PS5 exclusive, just like Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I think Insomniac.
The original Demon Souls was exclusive, right?
Well, Demon Souls is an IP that is owned by Sony, right? I think Insomniac will be there, but I don't think they're going to show off Spider-Man yet. I mean, they have a bunch of events that they're planning, and I don't think they necessarily need to announce Horizon and Spider-Man and God of War and, all this other stuff at the same show. Like,
when that thing's in Resistance.
But Insomniac, I had this conversation with Colt on RDX on Tuesday, because Insomniac tweeted a picture of Sunset Overdrive, and there's like, oh, they're gonna do a Sunset Overdrive 2, but I was like, no, man, like Insomniac just kind of is proud of all their work, so they always kind of do this, because they've tweeted screenshots of Resistance, they've tweeted screenshots of Sunset Overdrive, they've tweeted screenshots of Fuse recently. Fuse ain't coming back. You know what I'm saying? So what I think Insomniac's going to be there, but they're not going to show Spider-Man 2. I know a lot of people want Spider-Man 2, but I think they're going to have a new Ratchet and Clank that's available at launch. So like that'll be a first-party game that will be there for launch. I think Ratchet and Clank 1 or the last Ratchet and Clank came out in 2016. This will be 4 years. So I'm expecting a Ratchet and Clank game to be at launch. Demon Souls will be at launch, like I said. Horizon Zero Dawn 2 will be, next year, early March. I expect a new Silent Hill game to be shown off. I think that game's real. I think I think it'll be at this event, but I don't think it's going to be coming out anytime soon.
Do you think it'll be exclusive?
Yes, I think it's exclusive.
Rip.
I think Sony and Konami came to an agreement. So I think Silent Hill will be there. I think Gran Turismo 7 will be there as well, because I think Gran Turismo 7 is going to be launch window, if not a launch game. So that'll be another first-party game for Sony that will be there. What?
Do you think, just to interrupt, do you think that's why Microsoft invested in so much horror for the Xbox Series X? Because they knew Silent Hill was going to be exclusive? Because it was so weird to me that Microsoft put like horror games on their stage that were exclusive. Because Microsoft is not known for horror games.
No, they aren't. And Emperor Zergy says, "You think Splinter Cell will be there?" Nope. Unfortunately, I don't think Splinter Cell is going to be there. Or never. Wow.
I still want there to be a Splinter Cell mobile game with free-to-play, pay-to-win elements just for you.
Just for me? Just for me? Well, thank you, Jez. No, I don't think Splinter Cell is going to be there. If it does come back, it'll be in a different way. And P. Diddy wants to know, Rand, would you be hyped for an ODST Battle Royale? Sure, absolutely. Absolutely, I would be hyped for ODST game. What other games?
Did you see our Splinter Cell leak recently?
What about a Splinter Cell leak?
We found, like, Windows Central, my colleague Matt, found data mined a Splinter Cell opera. What's his name? I can't remember his name. The dude from Splinter Cell that you like so much. He's going to be in Rainbow Six Siege, I think.
Yeah. I saw that. What else do I think
is going to play Rainbow Six Siege now?
So there'll also be third-party games there. Obviously, probably Godfall again, because that's going to be a launch game. If I had to guess, House Mark's new game that they've talked about, they haven't announced who it's with. I think it's with Sony. I think their game will be there, whatever their game is.
What did they make?
They made House Mark made Nex Machina, and they made Resogun last gen. I think maybe they also made Helldivers too.
Yes. Did they make Helldivers?
Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe someone in chat.
I don't think they made Helldivers.
Well, I know they made Resogun and they made Nex Machina. I would not be surprised if their game is at that show.
Okay.
What else? Like Resident Evil 8, I could see being there. Street Fighter 6, I could see being there. And I do think there's a possibility Street Fighter 6 is exclusive to PlayStation 5 again, just like what Street Fighter 5 was. But I don't know. Like I always keep on hearing that PlayStation is spending a ton of money getting exclusives, a lot of third party stuff. So I just don't think Sony's gonna blow their entire first party. Like I don't think you'll see God of War. I don't think you'll see anything from Naughty Dog. I don't think you'll see Spider-Man. I don't think you'll see the other game that Guerrilla's working on. I don't think you'll see the game that the new San Diego studio's working on. Although maybe you will. Maybe that game's closer to coming out. Because there's supposed to be other events. Portal Player says Ape Escape. I don't. Do people still care about Ape Escape? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think for most people, if they show a good slate of exclusives that look good, and then you end it off with Horizon Zero Dawn 2, I think most people will probably be like, that was a fire show. And it's supposed to be more focused on gameplay because that's one of the things they also kind of took away from the Xbox thing was the whole gameplay. So, like Jeff Grubb and Jason said that there were supposed to be more games at this show, but they kind of nixed the ones that were like just kind of
trailers,
like trailers, or just like not running on the hardware of the PlayStation, and kind of booted them from the show. I think I think the show is going to be good, just like I think like the July show for Xbox is going to be good. Like, and I do find it funny that Sony left E3 only to be kind of putting on a show almost exactly when E3 would be coming around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny that like this is the first year in a while that I haven't gone to LA for E3. And usually what happens is you get like this 2 weeks of insane work and all this news in the space of like 2 or 3 weeks. But because there's no E3, lots of PR companies are like spreading out their announcements across the whole month. And it's like it feels like even more work than E3 itself. Oh, I don't know. But it's fun because there's going to be loads of things to talk about, loads of news and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised like if the new Call of Duty's there, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which is supposedly the name. I would not be shocked, because if they have that marketing deal, Sony wants to really kind of associate Call of Duty with PlayStation. Just kind of like how Microsoft wants to associate Assassin's Creed with Xbox. Same thing for that. So I would not be absolutely shocked to see Call of Duty there. But then again, like Activision could do their own thing for Call of Duty, so it's up in the air with a lot of that stuff. I mean, it's an hour-long show, so how many games does that really point to? Portal Player asked, "Do you think we'll see Alan Wake 2 at the show?"
God, that would be an upset, wouldn't it?
Well, you see, Remedy's next game is being published by Epic, so I guess it's possible that could happen, but part of me thinks like Epic will just save any announcements that they have for their own stuff. Like, why bother giving it to Sony or Microsoft unless, of course, Sony or Microsoft are paying for the marketing on that game, right? So I expect big things from this show. I also expect big things from Xbox's July show. And you can look at this being like, okay, because I guarantee you everybody at Microsoft is going to be watching this show, seeing what the reactions are, positive, negative, and then they're going to, strategize, look over what their content review is for July, think, like if something that really landed well at this one, then you kind of like push more, with it in your own show. If people hated something that Sony did and you were planning on doing something similar, maybe you cut it. There's plenty of time to actually kind of make changes, like small changes like that. So it's going to be fun, because there's not only the PlayStation event, but there's also that indie event, like the Guerrilla Initiative. They got a whole bunch of stuff like Xbox. Then Xbox supposedly has an event the following week. We already see Aaron Greenberg trading blows with Jim Ryan on Twitter. Like, I can only imagine how much more heated the stuff's going to get. I mean, you already see, like, fanboys from both sides, like, start getting really, really going at each other about stuff over, like, marketing stuff nonetheless. Like, look, you got to market your console, right? And you play up your strengths. I always say all the time, play up your strengths, downplay your weaknesses. What's Sony's strength? It's their games, right? It's the fact that in Sony's eyes, they're going to have PS5 exclusives. So you have to hammer that. And the fact that your competition isn't going to do that, they view that as a strength.
Hello? Rand? Oh, we've lost Rand. We have lost Rand, guys. So I'm all by myself right now. I don't know where Rand's gone. I think he might have answered a phone call or something like that. Oh dear. I hate when Rand leaves me like this, because I'm really not good at going off the cuff like this. Oh god. Well, it's midnight here, guys. So let's give me some questions. I pulled up the chat. Give me some questions and we'll answer them while we wait for Rand to get back. Because I have no idea where he's gone. He's muted his mic. Jersey's shaking. Yeah, I am actually. It's now the Jez show. Oh, Rand. Maybe Rand doesn't realize his mic's muted.
No, sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, you're back.
Yeah.
So, oh, thank God.
What was I saying?
Where did you go?
Somebody knocked at the door. I had to go see who it was real fast.
Oh, okay. That's the problem with doing this stuff live, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Kendrick Star says, "Do you think the in-engine Hellblade 2 trailer is representative of Xbox Series X graphics?" I mean, maybe. Damn, I even forgot what I was talking about. But
so did I, because I was just dealing with a little leak.
You gotta go off the cuff. You gotta be able to do this stuff for I don't know. Maybe
job,
it's
you're the
mine.
What do they call it? You're the color commentator, and I'm the analytical person.
Oh, I was saying the marketing thing about how you need to play to your strengths and downplay your weaknesses, and I think it's smart of Sony to play up the fact that they're going to have exclusives, and they do that really well. Like, Sony's really good at that type of marketing, right? And so they're saying, hey, we got exclusives, we believe in generations, we believe in this, we believe in that, and it works well because of their competition is not doing that. So you would expect PlayStation, like, look at what Sony has been hyping up, the SSD, because the SSD is better than Xbox Series X's SSD. So they play up that strength and they downplay their weaknesses. What's their weakness? The variable CPU and the GPU, which are the Xbox's strength, coincidentally. I mean, guys, it's basic marketing 101, and I'm not even somebody who's taken many marketing classes, even though I have. It's like, it's right there for everybody to see. Like, Xbox...
I do think it's funny how, like, the PC Master Race subreddit, like, for a whole week, they were just, like, mocking the PlayStation 5 SSD and being like, Sony's convinced their fans that SSD is now a GPU and stuff like that.
And Ethan Rice says, will there ever be a remastered version of Knights of the Old Republic? That would be pretty cool.
Oh, that would be amazing.
But yeah, it's all right there. Like I said, like, Xbox is hyping up Back and Pat because they know that's a huge feature for them, and all the things that can do, and the no boost clock versus Sony's like solution and all that stuff. It's all just marketing. It's all just marketing. Hold on one second. Hold on. Take a question, Jess. Hold on one second.
Oh my God. Well, I just want to loop back to that dude's question. I can't remember who said it about Knights of the Old Republic. So I actually talked to someone about this recently. Like, how cool would it be if Respawn Entertainment were working on, like, a Knights of the Old Republic remaster with a modern engine and stuff like that? But basically, like, the same game, but with updated everything, with, like, the same story, but with better voice acting and all that sort of stuff. I'd be down for that. I think that'd make a lot of money if they did do that. But I don't know. When's the last time EA really made us happy? I can't really remember the last time that happened. But I did see BioWare teasing some stuff on their Twitter earlier. Or they were just linking, like, Mass Effect music and stuff. They're talking about Mass Effect a lot recently. But bear with me, guys, because I'm gonna pull up the chat again. Because my stupid browser is frozen. Which is, these are the joys, right, of doing a live podcast. Like, a lot of podcasts I've been on, they do a recording, like, offline, and then they edit all the bits out they don't want to say. They edit out all the pauses and silences. We can't do that because we're 100% live, and there's lots of things going down all at the same time. So yeah, okay, the chat's back. Jez, do you think we're going to see an xCloud integration into the UI for demos and Mixer? I do think we're going to see that, and actually, I think there was a build, one of the builds on the Alpha Ring on the Xbox actually hinted that there was going to be, like, some kind of xCloud feature where you could stream the game before you've installed it via xCloud. So, like, next gen's all about speed, right? It's all about getting to your games faster, accessibility. It's all about the SSD loading speeds. But even before you've installed the game or downloaded it, theoretically, you should be able to play it via xCloud, which is pretty cool. Jez, you should always be looking at chat. You're worshippers. I do generally, but the problem is I can't read and think at the same time. So if I start reading stuff, like sometimes you'll hear me ask Rand to repeat something. That's usually because someone from my company has sent me a message saying, Jez, can you do this or something? And then I reply to them. And then when I'm reading that, I can't listen to what Rand's saying. Like, I'm no good at multitasking. So, and Rand's back again. Where the hell you go that time? People are saying that you keep needing the bathroom and stuff.
No bathroom. If it was bathroom, it'd be longer than that. But yes. Well, so what were you talking about? I know it's getting a little bit late. You wanna just take questions and thank everybody for being here? Like, I figured that'd be the last topic. So
did we talk about Crucible?
We'll talk about Crucible now. But we'll be like, hey, if you guys got questions, make sure you start preparing them, typing them in chat. We thank you for being, coming out for the show today. Sorry we missed last week. We appreciate everyone who's listening to this later on SoundCloud or iTunes. If you enjoyed the podcast, hit the like and subscribe button. Follow me and Jez on Twitter.
Tell your friends about it.
Yeah, tell all your friends about it. We think it's a pretty good show, but we might be a little bit biased.
Should we start selling mugs and t-shirts?
I mean, if you want to.
Would you buy a t-shirt with Rand's face on it, guys?
No, nobody should ever do that. So Amazon's Crucible, Jazz, go. Go. Tell me.
Amazon's Crucible seems to have been a massive flop. Like, I honestly, like, some people in my company were like, Jez, are we preparing Crucible content? And I was like, what the hell is Crucible? And then, I got some emails and they were like, Crucible is this upcoming Overwatch sort of style game. Like, that's basically what I took away from it. That it was like this Overwatch style game. And I was just like, oh man, I got too much on with Minecraft Dungeons and stuff like that. So I just kind of ignored it. But it looks like not only did I ignore it, but it looks like everyone basically ignored it. And I saw like loads of ads for it on Instagram and Twitter, like this hero shooter sort of thing, similar to Overwatch. I don't actually know what it does differently to Overwatch. But I saw an article from Kotaku the other day basically saying, oh dear, it's the next Battleborn. And indeed, if you look at the Steam stats, it had like 8,000 concurrent players and dwindling. And it's not looking good for them. Turns out, Rand, that you can't just throw money at the gaming industry. You actually have to, it's not as easy as they might think. Apparently, Rand, this game had several $100 million budget, had a 4-year development time, and 250 developers on it, many of whom were poached from Microsoft too.
Ooh.
Because they, the game was developed in Seattle. So Amazon was poaching Microsoft developers to make this game, and it looks like it's been a total fail.
I mean, I'm not surprised, so it's funny how Amazon hasn't started up their cloud streaming yet, right? And it's interesting, I see SubZedX in the chat, who is a big proponent of cloud streaming. We were talking about this in my party last night, and a lot of the people believe that cloud streaming is never going to go anywhere, and that it's kind of like that false idol that these companies think just because music streaming and movie streaming took off, that game streaming will do the same, and that you look at companies like Google and Amazon and how like Google Stadia is a joke, and that Amazon's, new game is failing. But I was like, well, you can't really judge Amazon's streaming service yet when it doesn't exist and all this stuff. And then,
there are things that you're not seeing when people say that streaming's going to fail and stuff. There are things that you're not realizing here. The thing is, right? For example, I've been playing with the Razer Kishi controller this week, which is kind of like, it's another one of those clips for your phone and stuff like that. And it's like, it's USB-C rather than Bluetooth. And I did not realize how much latency Bluetooth really introduces into the overall experience. Like when you play the Razer Kishi that's connected via USB-C, like I was playing Minecraft Dungeons streaming from my computer. It felt almost native, and yeah, there was artifacting still and stuff like that from the stream, but like the controls, it felt almost native. So like I think there's hardware limitations that still need to be overcome before it really takes off, because at the same time I don't even really want to use my phone for streaming, because if I'm streaming a game, then I can't answer a text, which is really annoying, especially if I'm like using a Razer Kishi or something like that. But there are markets where people actively play on their phones, and that's Asia. But so like Microsoft already said that they saw more usage out of their South Korean testers than their Western testers. And I think I actually heard that the German testers are weirdly engaged with it as well. But beyond that, Rand, there is something Microsoft can do beyond xCloud with the xCloud streaming platform. And I was actually just talking about this with people while you were on the toilet or whatever you were doing. Uh, but they can use xCloud to let you play a game before you've installed it. So like when you're waiting to download a game, instead of like waiting to download the whole game, you can start playing it straight away via xCloud. That's one benefit. Another benefit is they will be able to sell, for example, they'll be able to sell Minecraft Dungeons on the Google Play Store as a standalone game that doesn't actually run on Android. All it does is like instantly give you access to the game via xCloud. So like when you buy the game on the Google Play Store, you're not actually buying like the download onto your phone. You're just buying access to it via xCloud and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be via the streaming program and stuff like that. So like when xCloud becomes like a fully functional platform, it's not going to be like Netflix. It's going to have all these other benefits, like letting you play games before you installed them, letting you like buy games that look better on a phone because they're streaming from the cloud rather than using the phone's local hardware and stuff like that. So I think like there's a lot of things that people aren't seeing here with regards to this, and I don't think it necessarily has xCloud and Stadia aren't the full story here. There are like features that can use the streaming for and stuff like that. And but to answer someone's question in chat, yes, I am currently reviewing the Razer Kishi controller from Windows Central, and that'll be live. Actually, no, I'm not reviewing it, but I am writing about it, and that'll be live like in the next few weeks or so.
Yeah, Victor says, "Hey, the UE5 engine demo looked like a Recore spin." Binyabik says, "Did you see Bill Stillwell on Twitter taking apart Sony PlayStation PR narrative that they want their devs to concentrate on next gen and not be held back?" I mean, yeah, he pretty much said exactly what I've been saying, that it's all just a marketing thing. Like, I don't know how people don't clearly see like a marketing thing when it's in their face. Like, and it's not just a PlayStation thing, Xbox thing as well. Like, it's all, I mean, they're marketing their new consoles. Like I mentioned, I don't know how many times I've said this on many podcasts. Play up your strengths, downplay your weaknesses. But yeah, let me bring up Bill's tweets and see if he still has them up here. Which maybe he deleted them. I don't know. I did see him earlier. I think he deleted them though, unfortunately. But I did see him originally. Yeah, no, it's still up. So, someone asked, like, what strategy you think is better? Your opinion, Nobody Left Behind or Sony's approach? Obviously, Xbox's approach or Sony's. And Lord Cognito of the Iron Lords podcast, good buddy of mine, he said that, honestly, it's a tough one for him. I'm truly torn. As a techie, I want the latest, newest, hottest graphical showcases on my new console, and in quotes, PS5. But as a consumer, I want my games to go forward. Free 99, right? Like free with me.
Well, that's the whole marketing. That's the whole marketing dissonance. You can have both. You can have both.
Well, hold on. So we're gonna get to Bill's comment though. With me and smart delivery upgrades for the Xbox Series X, I can't knock anyone who wants either side. So Bill said, so I tend to stay out of the console debates, but heck, I'm not on the team. That is a false choice. At no point in our journey towards compatibility did the concept of limited future development intrude on the ability of a developer to take advantage of the latest tech. In fact, the blockers on compatibility are more biz legal. Yes, some custom work was sometimes an issue, but there were workarounds. Now you could engineer a problem into the system, but that was going to hold you back regardless. This is just not how the real world works. Developers have been writing code that can handle improvements in the CPU and GPU since forever. It is sort of the hallmark of the way software should get written. Maybe first-party weirdness, but most titles are already written for multilateral anyways, including PC. Consoles are the only systems that still try to push this narrative today. It's just marketing/positioning and largely a red herring.
Yeah, it's total marketing fluff. Like anyone who's dumb enough to buy the narrative that backwards compatibility holds the system back, or a lower end system holds the system back, they're just dumb, or they're not techie, and they don't understand the reality of it. Like I've spoken to so many developers about this. Admittedly, mostly PC oriented developers who are used to coding multilateral games with like different resolutions and different hardware specifications, stuff like that. If it doesn't hold back PC development, it doesn't hold back Xbox development, because it's the whole same sort of platform. So like I am not familiar with any PlayStation devs. I'm not familiar with PlayStation development like I am with PC, like the same degree. So I can't comment on whether it would hold back a PlayStation, but I know for a fact it doesn't hold back an Xbox. And anyone who says that it does either has an agenda or is just ignorant. Sorry to say.
So that's what Bill had to say. JD Gamer says, what are the chances that Microsoft did a late cycle spec bump on the Series X or Lockhart like they did with Xbox One? And what Sega IP would you bring back? I mean, it's always possible they boosted the clocks on the CPU a tad.
Well, I actually we leaked the CPU clocks back in, was it November last year? And I think they were slightly different, like by a decimal point or something, if I remember right. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but I think they were like slightly higher than what we'd originally leaked. Even though we got 12 teraflops, I think the CPU clocks we leaked were slightly lower, like by a decimal point or something. But I can't remember off the top of my head. But those things are things that can be tweaked, I guess. But it shouldn't have a huge impact, I don't think.
Yeah, and what else we got here? What Sega IP would you bring back? I mean, I don't really have a fondness for a Sega IP. I mean, a lot of people want Jet Set Radio to come back.
What about Altered Beast, man? You never played Altered Beast?
I mean, I played Altered Beast, but I mean, they did bring that back. Maybe they did. I don't know. Ethan Rise says, hey, question for you both. If you could be a character from any video game, which one would you be? Jez, are you going to be a World of Warcraft character?
I don't think so. I wouldn't want to live in that world, man. Like, World of Warcraft is constantly imperiled by dragons and zombies and all sorts of crazy stuff. I wouldn't want to live in that world. It's kind of dangerous. Man, I don't know.
Who would I want to be? Jeez, that's such a question to just come out of nowhere, and now I got to think about it.
I really would need to think about that.
Yeah, I want to be someone rich, like somebody be like, I want to be Master Chief, but I'm like, man, being Master Chief would suck. You got the world on your, you got to save the world all the time, and I don't know who would be a good character to be. That's interesting. I'm gonna ask the chat. Who would you want to be? Let us know in the chat. We'll read off some of the answers because, man, I just can't really think of one.
I'd be Minecraft Steve, man, and just have a farm, build a big wall, and just live away from the world, farming my chickens and stuff. That'd be kind of peaceful.
Daz says he wants to be Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe he wants to beat people up. I have no idea.
That's mean.
I mean, I don't know. Someone says QW Vampire Marcus or John. Doomslayer says he wants to be Doomslayer or Dracula. Drag One Gaming says I'll be Master Chief if Cortana was my woman. Thanero says anyone
robot.
Anyone of the Saints from the Saints Row. Doomslayer's says Batman. Hey, yeah, Batman. That'd be cool. Binyabix
Batman
says Laura Croft. Yeah. Yeah, Emperor Zergy says, I bet Rand wants to be Banjo. You know it. Maybe someone from Animal Crossing, right? Let's see what
Oh
else we
god,
got
that's
here.
who I'd be, man. I'd be a Pokemon trainer. Oh, that'd be so sweet. Having you Pokemon, becoming a Pokemon master. I wanted to be that since I was a little kid.
Cinema Games asks, hey, do you think Epic could market with Sony because they want Sony games exclusively on their store for PC? I mean, like I said, it's possible that, Sony throws co-marketing money at Epic for, like,
But
Remedy's games or whatever, but...
I mean, like, I would say if I was a conspiracy theorist, I might say that Epic has a vested interest in seeing Microsoft fail. But at the same time, Epic makes millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe from Microsoft's use of the Unreal Engine, which they use almost exclusively for some of their third party games. Not third party games, for some of their games that don't have in-house engines, like the Halo engine and stuff like that. So I don't think that's a thing. But I don't know. I feel like Tim Sweeney does like to take digs at Microsoft where he can. And I think like he's still got like some people like of that era kind of have this sort of weird salt about Microsoft from the 90s still. I don't know if that's the case with him, but I don't know.
Yeah. What else we got here? We have a question from Emperor Zerg. He says, do you think xCloud release date can be announced during the June event?
Yes. Now that is the kind of announcement that I would expect at the June event, is because that's sort of platform oriented, right? I would think. If the July's about games and then June's about hardware and platform stuff, we could hear more about xCloud and what their intentions are, because honestly, there's still a lot of it shrouded in sort of mystery. We don't really know the pricing model. We know that it's going to be tied to Xbox Game Pass in some way, but it's like, is it going to be all the games on Xbox Game Pass? Was that part of the original agreement with the studios that joined Xbox Game Pass, that their games would be on xCloud as well? Like it's sort of confusing, right? And it's also kind of annoying how, I mean, I know that coronavirus has probably affected timelines on xCloud, especially xCloud actually, because a lot of those because it relies on a lot of deals with other companies, which are also being stretched, and they're also working from home, and meetings are going out the window, and being able to make deals aren't as fluid. But it does feel weird that we haven't even had an extra game for xCloud for a while. Like every now and then they used to announce like, oh, by the
They
way,
just announced like 5 games the other day.
did they?
Yeah, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. They literally just announced like 5 games, Jez. Where were you?
Well, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm completely out of the loop because of my crap.
So they announced Batman Arkham Knight, Pillars of Eternity, Mortal Kombat 10, Lego Batman 3, and Ori the Will of the Wisps. 5 great new games now available in Project xCloud preview.
Well, I hope someone on my team covered that, because I completely missed.
That was only 2 days ago, May 27th.
Well, that's my point gone out the window. But even still, we don't know pricing. We don't know the launch date. We don't know, like, did the iOS version get any more stuff?
No,
like the iOS
still just Halo.
So that's just so weird to me. Like, it doesn't feel like it's moving ahead very fast. Hopefully that we can get some more like serious news about that, because I don't know. We haven't heard anything major about timelines for a while.
Yeah. And Binyabix says, hey, what's up with the GTA 6 PS5 exclusive rumor? I mean, I don't know. There's always those dumb rumors that Sony bought exclusivity of GTA 6 for a month or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. That never really made too much sense to me. I don't think Rockstar or Take-Two would be interested in that. So
no, they wouldn't. They make ridiculous amounts of money on GTA. It's like one of the most sold games on Xbox. Why would they just? Sony would have to offset those costs, offset the lost revenue to nail that down. So maybe like a month or something they can afford to buy, but why would they? That's just like that'd be so harsh. Imagine if they did that. That'd be so like petty to do.
It'd be ridiculous.
And it'd be so expensive.
I mean, there's a talk it's not even coming to 2023. So who knows? But yeah, I think that's gonna be it, guys. We appreciate everybody who turned out for the show. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you can always be well aware of when the next podcast is. You can follow me and Jez on Twitter. I don't tweet that much. Jez tweets a lot, but we do tweet out when the podcast is going live, usually Fridays. So next week we'll have a lot to talk about. We're gonna have reactions to the PS5 event on Friday, which will be fun.
Oh, there's a World of Warcraft event next week too, Rand.
Ooh, there's a World of Warcraft event. Maybe Xbox announces the hardware event for the following week of June next week sometime. That's got to happen at some point if they're really doing a show at the second week of July or June or whatever. So who knows what happened next week? Could be a lot of stuff. Should be a great show. And Showin in the super chat says xCloud limitation on iOS is an Apple rule on betas. That is true. So maybe Xbox and Apple or Microsoft and Apple are working behind closed doors. But yeah, I hope everyone has a great weekend and keep it gaming, guys. And we'll see you here next week.
Hugs.